Hey everybody, welcome back inside another exciting episode of The Stash, report from The Stash Project. Today is June 24th, 2017, and with this video, I believe we'll sort of be caught up, at least with this part of the show. You guys will notice you've gotten a couple of weekly episodes rather late. There were things I had taped, filmed, recorded, technically. Yes, I'm not using tape or film. That I just never had time to edit, even as short as especially the first video was. Work has just been intolerable, for the best way to put it. Basically, for a quick sort of recap of what I do, I deliver freight to central Pennsylvania, pick a load up, and I bring it back here to where I live, and then another driver takes it out to Ohio. He picks up my load for the next day, brings it back. We do that 5 days a week. Uh, I had been dropping the loaded trailer at the place in Pennsylvania and then picking up the backhaul and then being on my merry way. And in the last 2.5 weeks, the place that I've delivered to decided that unless they are spectacularly busy, and I've yet to figure out what their definition of that means because I've never found them busy enough so far, that they would then allow me to drop the trailer. Otherwise, they want to live unload it. They want to load it when I get there. That takes anywhere from, I mean, the actual unloading process probably only takes 15 minutes, but the amount of time I wait there, waiting for them to do it, tends to range somewhere between 45 minutes to 3 hours, because 3 hours they've managed to do to me twice. And as you can imagine, taking what is a 9-hour day and throwing 3 extra hours into it, and I am getting paid for it, so don't anybody panic and say that I'm being abused. Uh, it makes my day 12 hours plus, because it still doesn't count the time it takes me to drive to work, drive home, I eat, take a shower, go to bed, get up, eat, go back to work again, because, really only getting 10 hours off. Unless I really want to, put my foot down and take the 12 hours off that I'm supposed to get, but then that would make the next day even later, and eventually, it just keeps compounding on itself. So, yeah, I just really simply didn't have time to edit the videos. I could come down and film them. If you might notice, it's daytime now. Film them at night when I got home from work, and just never had time to just put it into rendering and get them up. It's one thing to sit here and just blah 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 into the camera, but then I have to go back in afterwards and I have to put all the graphics up that you guys see of the box art, and that's not a tedious job. It's not something I'm complaining about, but it does make me rewatch basically the entire video, which is why sometimes you'll see me putting text up on the screen to correct myself. If I'm recording a 30-minute video, I then have to watch 30 minutes of video back to put the stuff back into it again. Otherwise, I would have to do I'd have to hold my hand up to remind myself that this is where the graphic goes, and then do hard edits to edit that part out. That really does become more trouble than it's worth. So, at any rate, with that being said, that's why things are late. That's why I've never done the other half of the in the box thing. Although more stuff has shown up, and I went out and bought some stuff this past weekend from the local hobby shop because my wife gave me a gift card to do a little hobby shopping for Father's Day. Not that I need to buy anything, but it's always nice. Appreciate it. So that video has to be done so that I can start putting some of this stuff away and reclaim my bench area and catch you guys up on what I'm doing behind the scenes as a new business in the hobby and all sorts of stuff like that. So anyway, this video we have some kit announcements finally for Hasegawa for August and things like that, and then we have this week's releases. So let's go through it real quick, shall we? Over in August, we got some restocks from Aoshima actually this morning, and then we have Hasegawa's announcements from a couple days ago. The restocks over at Aoshima, and these are just straight reissues, just refilling the stores. The 96 Mazda RX-7 FD3S, the 89 Skyline R32 GTR, 85 Toyota 11 GT Apex, the 1990 Toyota Century, the 2009 Nissan GTR Spec V, the 1991 Honda Beat, the 2001 Nissan Skyline ER34 25 GTT, the Urace, that's the old D1 Grand Prix car that they've sort of reissued as kind of sort of a four-door R34. You guys know that by now that has nothing to do with the new tool factory stock R34, for which we'll get a second version of in a few days here, I would expect. because it is almost the end of June at this point. So there's one more. The next version of the R30, the new tool R34 four-door kit should be out next week. Reissue of the Liberty Walk R34 Skyline GTR. Not really a Skyline anymore, but you know what I mean. For the Type 2 version 2, that's the Advan liveried Rocket Bunny R35, so that's getting a reissue. And then they're reissuing 4 of the 14-inch wheel sets. They're the Yayoi, Longchamp, Star Shark, and Hayashi. So that 4-pack, not in, mind you, they're sold separately, but those 4 wheels are all tooled on the same piece of tooling, so when they run one, they run them all. Over at Hasegawa, a couple of straight reissues that are legitimately restocks, and then the other ones are, they're reissues, but they're new reissues, if you will. The straight reissues are another run of the Lancia Delta HF Integral Evolution, the street version of the rally kit, as well as the Jaguar XJRS HE TWR, and that is the race car version. Race car version of the Jaguar. On the stuff that is new for this month, or newly reissued, the 1/24th scale Wacoal Reynard 89D, so that's another one of their 1/24 scale Formula 3000 cars. Reissue of the Porsche 962C, and this is going to be a 1987 Leighton House liveried Japanese sports car prototype series. I don't believe that this livery has been done before, or it may be the reissue of the one they've done before. They have done a Leighton House 962C. I don't think it was necessarily done by Hasegawa personally, but there was like this weird limited edition Leighton House 962C that Hasegawa produced, but it was in just a box that said like Leighton House 962C on it. And I think this may be a reissue of that in their own box. Or it might be a new set of decals. I need to do a little more research on that. But that's coming back out. They're going to reissue with Resin Girl the 1966 Pontiac. So this will be the last of the 1966 American cars that they have. So this was easily foreseeable, but it's good to see. So for people who are collecting that series on the second go around here, or fourth go around, fifth go around, how many times it's been reissued now, that Pontiac is going to be reissued in August, and that will take care of that whole group. They're going to reissue the little Civic, the little first-gen Toyota, or little first-gen Honda Civic, in the Team Yamato 1,000 kilometers of Suzuka from 1982. So that's the little you may recall, they already did a Team Yamato endurance car, the little itty bitty Civic race car. This is basically a reissue of the race car kit with new decals included. In the 1982 1,000 kilometers of Suzuka, they finished third, so it is a podium car. And then lastly, from Hasegawa for the month of August, they're going to reissue their Mitsubishi Galant 2000 GTR, GTO, GSR, whatever designations it has to it at this point, but the Mitsubishi Galant. This will have all of the parts in it, so you can build it either as an early version or a late version, and the shtick to it is it has what they're calling a sport visor. So the only new piece that is being added to this kit is a set of window louvers for the rear window. That's it. I personally did not order this because at this point I have something like 3 or 4 Galants. I think it's 3. I don't need a 4th one just because it has louvers. But if you haven't picked one up, this might be legitimately one of the best ones to buy, regardless of what your feelings are on rear window louvers, because this will include all of the parts from both kits. So you get like the over fenders, the front end pieces from the early kit, the front end pieces from the late kit, and all of that stuff in one box. So it may be a good value proposition if you have not picked up one of those kits at this time. Ebro, and there's no release date on this, but I have it written on this page so I wouldn't forget about it. Ebro is going to reissue their Citroen HY, the big 1950s commercial van, as the Crepe Mobile again, because who doesn't love a good mobile crepe? And this time it's going to come with 3, I believe they're plastic injected figures. There are 3 girls, well, it's a woman and 2 girls really, and it looks like it's supposed to be somebody who works in the van itself, and then 2 girls who are purchasing from her, because the woman has her hand out like so she's reaching for money over the side of the van. The one little girl has her hand up like she's handing her money, and then there's just a girl who's milling around creepily beside them. So that will be coming back out if you wish to sort of go a diorama route. If you haven't picked up one of those HYs from either Heller or Ebro at this point. And then we have the September releases for Fujimi. So they're going to do a few more of these sort of randomized part sets things, wheel sets. And they're going to be what they're calling the police car part set, which lets you get sort of a 1960s-ish era Japanese police car parts, as well as some late 80s, early 90s Japanese police car parts. I think this is basically taking two parts packages and packaging them into one package of parts. I realize that's sort of one of those tongue twisters, but because they've sold the older style police parts as their own thing with like a single beacon and an older style 70s style light bar included, and then there's a 80s 90s parts set that has sort of a more aerodynamic bar, and then one that's shaped sort of like a V, and those were sold separately. So I believe this is taking those two part sets and combining them into one part set. They're going to sell a set of wheels that they're calling the 17-inch original wire wheel. These look much like the wire wheels that they're doing for, I think it's August, that they're calling wire mesh, where I have looked at them again, and I believe the shtick and the idea with them is that you build them on top of one another so that each set of the wheel insert has a different spoke angle, and so when you compound them all together, it's going to look like a woven wire wheel. And then they're reissuing their 15-inch Watanabes. On the kit releases for September, there's only two. They're going to be in the Yoroshico Megatalk lineup, and they are going to be a 1971 GTR, which is the second-gen GTR, and then a Nissan Silvia RS that is going to be a police vehicle, which probably is the reason why these police parts are being reissued. I don't have any more information on either one of those in terms of like what they're supposed to represent in the show or whose characters they are or anything like that. I expect that'll come along as time goes along. The last 3 months, Fujimi's reissue notices or release notices have been, again, like little almost bulletin boards where it's a picture of the kit, maybe a second picture of the kit if it wants to show something else about the kit, and then a whole plethora of stuff in Japanese that's just sort of basic, really basic information saying, oh, this is the Yokoshika Megatalk, Nissan Skyline KPC-10 or KPC G10, 71 Skyline GTR. Okay, well, who is it and why do I care? That part, I don't know. So we shall see. I'll keep an eye on it because there's a couple of releases that are like that going forward. So I'm kind of keeping an eye on it every time I check Hobby Search for box art images and things like that to see when they decide when they're going to flesh out exactly what these kits are and why you would even care unless you're really, really, really familiar with that series and you're like, oh, well, duh, that's very important to have those kits. So be that as it may, that is what that is. We have one teaser here on the domestic side of things. It's going to be the next kit out of Savino's JR. The Buick is coming, the Buick Regal. It's going to be done up with, I believe it's Bobby Allison Gatorade livery. They had to retool the tires as well as, I believe, the windshield glass on that Buick kit. I'm not sure what happened to the windshield, but I'm going to guess that the tire tool that they're using would have been the tire tool that was used for pretty much every single NASCAR kit that Monogram ever did from 1981 through 2000, or not 2000, but through like the mid 1990s. I'm trying to think of what tool. It's like 1993, 1994 is where the cutoff is with the tooling in terms of what it is that Savino's JR bought off of Atlantis when the German Revell sold off all of the U.S. tooling. That they didn't sell all of it, obviously, but the parts of it. From the video that Savino's did this past weekend, it does appear that the wheels that they retooled still include an embossed or raised, if you will, Goodyear Eagle logos on them. So it wasn't a situation where they needed to wipe the licensing. Me and Scott, who runs Elm City Hobbies, had a debate, I think it was Friday night, back and forth over a text message, what it was that they needed to do with this tire. Were they scrubbing the licensing off of the tire because they didn't want to pay Goodyear, or was it a situation when the tooling was wore out, which is where I was with it, with where I was at with it. He was making very salient points about the fact that it's soft material being injected into a mold, and my point was how many hundreds of thousands of times was that mold struck when you figure that it was running every single set of tires for what has to be 25 plus NASCAR kits in the original line, plus how many times those things were reissued through the 90s and into the 2000s. So I think, want to say it's late 90s, early 2000s is when we saw the last runs of stuff like the Square Body Thunderbird and the Monte Carlos were getting reissued, and those limited edition multi-packs were done in the mid-1990s. I mean, you figure that tire tool ejected hundreds of thousands of tires, because back in those days, back in the heady 80s and 90s days, those NASCAR kits were being run in like runs of at least 25,000 per kit, in some cases 50,000 per kit, for things like Dale Earnhardt and Richard Petty and the really popular drivers. Because if you notice some of those limited edition kits that they did later on, there were limited editions of 15,000 or limited editions of 25,000, and at this point in time in 2019, a limited edition is like 3,000, because 5,000 is what a standard kit run is anymore. So, you know, lament the past, I guess, if you want to, because, you know, there's Toys R Us and KB Toys and Children's Palace. There's another name for Children's Palace out on the West Coast. I can't remember what it is right now. Plus all the department stores. So, you know, obviously you had to make more kits, just put them in more places and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see what that tire, you know, looks like in person. You know, only from the fact that, you know, it has to be an exact certain size, or else the wheel won't fit, and that would be really silly if you made a brand new tire that doesn't fit the wheels, because the wheels are going to basically be the same size wheel for every one of these. So being that said, that's coming along the line somewhere, probably July at this point, just from the aspect of them having to package and ship it. But the next kit, because they're having to package and ship it, that is going to come out of Salvino's first will be this. It is Richard Petty's 1980 winner. I'm going to assume this is again Daytona. I didn't look, but we're not mentioning the race, so that makes me think Daytona. But this is the 1980 race winning Monte Carlo that he drove. So this will be reissued. This will be probably the same sort of deal, where maybe the stripes will be included with the decals, but I'm going to guess the side panel is going to have like a masking guide again, like the way the Oldsmobile did. Be my guess. I haven't seen anything one way or the other. I can't tell you exactly what Salvino said in their video, because their volume was quite literally almost non-existent. It was a muttering in the background, which is not to sit there and start critiquing someone else's video making, but honestly, with my volume on my laptop cranked, the volume on my speakers cranked, and the volume of the video cranked, I still legitimately could not make out what he was saying. So that was unfortunate. But they're doing a live video on Facebook, so, you know, it's not like they can control it in post-processing or something like that. So there may be details of exactly what those decals are going to include, but I literally don't know what they are, because I couldn't hear a word the man said for 10 minutes. So be that as it may, that is going to be coming possibly at the end of this month, maybe, or very early in July for people who are interested. So looking at this week's kit releases, there was one domestic kit release. Everything else is going to be overseas, as you would expect. The domestic kit release is this. A lot of people are probably very excited to see the 1970 Plymouth AAR CUDA. So yes, the next of the modified reissues that was mentioned a little bit before NNL East, but featured at NNL East, is out. A little earlier than expected. Some places said June. Ed Sexton told me in person July, but, you know, be that as it may, it's here and it's out. This is a modified reissue of the new tool, Hemi CUDA tooling, that they did, I guess it's probably 2 or 3 years ago at this point, when you factor in how much time Revell lost over the course of the bankruptcy and the reconstitution of the company and things like that. This was in planning, you know, probably before even the bankruptcy came along, and finally it's seeing the light of day. For people who know Mopars better than I do, the one criticism I've seen of this kit, other than the fact that they didn't fix any of the body shape issues that the kit has just baked into it, is that it has the wrong rear end built into it. It's not an 8 and whatever the heck quarter rear end. It's the Dana rear end that comes in the Hemi, which is not the appropriate rear end for a small block car. But be that as it may, you know, you really have to ask yourself whether or not you care. Apparently, a good representation of the correct rear axle is in the 67 Mopar kits, the GTX and all that. The GTX obviously just got reissued, but I'm pretty sure all those kits have the same rear end in them. So if you want to swap it out, but I mean, let's face it, for the majority of people who are building this box stock, or relatively close to box stock in the sense of it being an AAR CUDA when they're done with it, how much of the bottom of it is ever going to be seen, I guess would be your decision point, right? If it's going to be a situation where you're going to be waving this thing around in front of people who know 1970 Barracudas really well, you might want to fix that. If it's going to be a shelf model that no one's ever going to see the underside of, I'm guessing you probably don't care, which is where I would come down on that. That picture is from my local hobby shop. They got theirs in. I did not pick one up in the group of things that I purchased just because it's one of those things that is sort of vaguely interesting to me. I know I'm going to probably get a ration of crap for this, but for some reason those 1970s or 1970s specifically, but then on with the same body style of the Barracuda and Challenger, they just don't do it for me. I don't know. Maybe I built too many of them as a kid with the old monogram kits, and now I just don't like them anymore, or something. But there's just something about that car that really doesn't appeal to me. I love the 67 through 69 Charger, the 67 Mopars. There's a lot of Mopars that I like. 69, Roadrunner GTX. Something about that car just doesn't do it for me, and I don't know why. I'll probably pick it up at some point, but it's just not today was the answer to that. Then moving over to Japan, we have several kit releases from Aoshima. A couple of them are going to be kits from this month. A few of them are just spot runs. And then the last tool, well, actually not the last two, but the brand new tool, rather, from Hasegawa for the month of June. And there's a couple wheel sets here from Fujimi. So let's tackle Fujimi's wheel sets real quick because, I mean, let's face it, there's a couple words to be said here. This are the 18-inch Volk TE37 gravels. So those are back out. And then you have this right here, which are 15-inch Hayashi racing wheels. So those are back out. Not a whole heck of a lot to say in all that, I guess. I mean, it's wheels. Yay. Let me see here. Back to the screen I need to be on. Over at Hasegawa, again, you're getting the brand new toolkit for the summer, and that is the Toyota Starlet EP71, in this case being the 1988 Turbo S variant. So yes, this was the top-of-the-line, most sporty version of the Toyota Starlet that you could purchase in the late 1980s. There are a few extra pieces in this kit in the glass work, which lets you know there are future versions coming. That really, if you pay any attention to this show at all, should surprise absolutely nobody, because you know that Hasegawa doesn't ever make a one-tool version of anything. Looks like a fairly decent kit. You get the decals for the seats, because the seats are a ridiculous 1980s pattern. I'd have to do more research into what other colors this car was available other than white. Probably black, red, blue, something along those lines. The hood scoop is separate. It's not molded into the hood, which again is another indication that this kit will get more than one version done. The back seat is separate, so that could be done as a race car. Come on, how's it go with JTCC? Because I did look it up, and there were EP71 Starlets in JTCC in the late 1980s. So go ahead and race car me up one of these, race car me up one of the Geminis, please and thank you. So that is out again, brand new tool, so everything is new, and should be an interesting kit just from what it is. It's historic. 1988 is history at this point, and in reality, it probably is. You're looking at something been 30 years old at this point. So over to Aoshima. Like I said, a couple of things that are just straight reissues. Reissue of the Liberty Walk R35 Type 2 version 1.5 or version 1.5 Type 4 or whatever the hell they're calling this thing. That's back out. Reissue of the Delica Star Wagon. A reissue of the Toyota Crown Royal Saloon, a 1989 kit. So those three are back in stock at your preferred retailer of choice. Over to the June releases this month. These are the newly packaged kits for this month. And you have this up first, the 1991 Toyota Crown Majesta UZS 141. I would be all over top of this kit in ways that are not describable in a family setting, if I didn't already have two that I picked up in Japan secondhand, because this kit at the time had not been released since 1992. So it's been a little while since this has been available. It's curbside, but it does have a newer style chassis underneath where it's more of a traditional curbside. It's not a motorized chassis. This kit comes with 3 sets of wheels. It comes with the factory stock wheels you saw on the box art. It comes with the i4 wheels out of the Toyota Aristo, and then another set of wheels that is sort of an aftermarket set. So you get 3 sets of wheels with this kit. I don't believe this kit was available with the Aristo wheels. I'm guessing that's probably just something that's very popular in Japan as far as customizing wheels for this car. And you know, it is what it is. It's just it's a good old curbside Japanese four-door sedan. Um, and thrilled to have it back out. I just wish that I had not bought the ones that I have because, you know, like I said, I have two old ones at this point instead of this brand new minty fresh one. And then we go over to the one of the tune model car kits for this month, and is this the Mazda Speed version of the what would we call this? This would be the NB or 8C Miata, the second gen Miata. You can only build it the way it comes on the box art. Sorry to tell you. It does not come with factory stock wheels. It does not come with factory stock ground effects. It is JDM right-hand drive only. There is a version of this that comes in as a Miata or a Miata MX-5. I have one. I actually bought it from my local hobby shop because it had been sitting around forever, and he just finally got rid of it to me. But this is not it. So this is only a JDM car. It's only the Mazda Speed version. So take that into consideration. A lot of the Aoshima kits have been having a lot of extra parts added to them. The tuned ones and the VIP things do not. They are coming out strictly as the versions that they are. And then last kit for this video, the third of four Aoshima kits. So they still got the one, and it is the R34 four-door. So you have this, which is the initial D version, the Volume 1 version. That's why this is unique to the Kaisuke Takahashi FD3S RX-7. So this kit has a few, well, actually I think it's two runners of new parts, very small runners. And what they are is that big wing in the back. They had to tool that up. And frankly, as far as I'm concerned, it's ridiculously large in scale. It seems to be almost 1/3 larger on the model than it is in this picture. I would personally, and it's really hard to do because the thing is tapered, so it would take a lot of work to make it look right. But I would want to take a section of the wing stands out and make the wings come down. It's too tall the way it comes out of the box, at least in my personal opinion. And then the other new parts are the headlights. The FD3S, for anybody who has an Aoshima FD3S, knows that those headlights are closed and there are no pieces to do the actual headlights. So what you're getting in this kit new are the top pieces of the headlight, the top pieces of the headlight cover, basically, that are on top of the headlights when they come up. The actual headlight assembly itself, new glass for the headlight lenses and things like that. That does mean you have to razor saw off the headlight closed and put the new open assemblies in. Other than that, it is a assemblage of parts from 1999 through 2006 as far as the wheels and the kit itself and the extra add-on parts and stuff like that. Remember, the Volume 1 kits were very minorly modified. It was the beginning of the comic. You never knew where this was going to go when they started drawing it. So none of the stuff was crazy, wild nonsense. This depicts, as far as this model goes, the first of the competition between this and the Fujiwara car, and of course that goes on to be basically the whole point of the entire series and videos and movies and everything else that were done in the future. This is sort of that first meeting of the cars. So that, guys, wraps up this video. One other thing, I did buy like a little window curtain for this window that I've got a little teeny tiny curtain rod for, and at some point when I need to do like one more video to clean all this junk off my spray booth so that I can get up there, and I'm gonna do that so that I can open and close the curtains up there. I love having all this natural light right over my shoulder when I build and when I am doing other things, but for you guys, you get this Halo of God thing that personally, when I edit these videos, I can't stand looking at. Plus, there's the whole thing of me trying to figure out exactly where I need to be with the camera because I have another window over here behind my Ferrari stuff, and I'm still getting a lot of light coming this way, which is sort of defeated because I have a whole bunch of kits sitting here because I've been looking through stuff. But then that comes this way. I like to, if I could just, I have, like I said, it's a dark blue blackout curtain that's about this tall. Just be enough to cover that window, so that I can take this thing and turn it, back to where we used to have it, like sort of, more head on rather than being on this angle. because I know that if I personally was going to critique anything about these videos, the number one critique I have is the lighting. So we're gonna try to at least calm that down a little bit in future, in the future, not right necessarily next time you see me, but in the future we're gonna calm that lighting situation back there down. So at any rate, guys, hope you enjoyed it. Hope you guys had a great Father's Day weekend. I know that was 2 weeks ago at this point, but we didn't do a video last week. Uh, in the end, because there was it was just like one of the things we would like another 7 minute video, and then this would have been like a 7 minute video, and we're just gonna combine them into one. So, uh, talk to you guys later. See you guys on the other side.